Hello and welcome. So today we are looking at integers. That's right, integers. You know those things where you had a negative sign and a positive sign? Yeah. For many people, when they reach this point in mathematics, they kind of freaked out, or they didn't understand. They're like, why are you putting a minus sign but no number in front of it? Like, what's the point of that? Like, I don't understand what we need these negative numbers for. They don't do anything. That's not true. So honestly, when we had whole numbers, it was quite easy, right? For a long time, it was quite easy. We had natural numbers, they added zero, and it just made sense. And we could add with zero and still get the same number. We could subtract one minus one and get zero. Um, and so we could get any number that we needed. Except for what happens when you come to me and you don't have money but you need to buy something. Like I really need to go buy this candy bar and it costs $1, but I have no money. So, Professor Stevens, would it be okay if I borrowed money from you? Oh, sure, yeah, you can borrow $1 from me. That is completely fine. So you started at zero and now you have $1, right? You have $1, right? Yeah, you have $1 now. I gave you $1, so you have $1 now. So all of a sudden, you just went up, right? That's what happens with a lot of people. They think that they have now gained money. Like when you get a credit card, it's like, ooh, I can spend $3,000. Yeah, so I have $3,000 now. No, you don't. You don't have that. That's a credit. That is a loan given to you. It does not actually belong to you, and you have to pay it back, right? So honestly, every time you use that, for instance, with this dollar that I borrowed and that you borrowed from me, you actually now owe me $1. So regardless of what happens now, you are in a negative value because you have less than zero. Even if you get $1 tomorrow, guess what? Now you're back to zero because you have to get that dollar to me because you owe me $1. Well, this kind of got tiring for them to keep writing that, you know, if I have no money and I borrow from someone, what do I call that? Oh, I'll just keep writing this: zero minus one, zero minus one. If I borrow $2, zero minus two. If I borrow $3, zero minus three. I'll just keep doing that, right? That makes sense. That makes sense. I'll just do that. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Well, in the end, it kind of just doesn't make sense. Because why would I keep writing that out when I can shorten it? Because honestly, that's what most things come about is we try to shorten it. Think about your vocabulary nowadays. How many of you say BT dubs instead of saying by the way, or BRB for be right back? You shorten everything. Everyone shortens everything nowadays because that's what people want to do. It wasn't any different back then. So instead of writing out zero minus one all the time, why don't we just get rid of zero in front? Because everyone already knows that zero really didn't have value to begin with. Now we have negative one, which honestly makes a lot of sense because you know that if you take nothing and you owe someone $1, you owe them $1. And that's what you're at. You're at negative one. Well, let's take a look and see what this looks like in regards to the numbers that we had to begin with. So I'm going to make that a little bigger for me, guys. So let's see. Okay, I think that looks a lot bigger. So you're at zero, and you go one, you go two, three, and you just keep going, right? All right, yes, you keep going right. As I said, you go to the right. Well, what happens when you go to the left? Well, before, only thing we had was one and up. Then we added zero. And as I said in the beginning overview video for whole numbers, we keep going backwards. So we look at what happens. What's the unknown that we're not thinking about? What is it that we're missing? Well, in this case, they were missing these instances of when someone else owed money, and so they had to have something to symbolize it. And now they had it. They would just get rid of the zero in front and just call it a negative. Well, if we have that same concept, then this left side should be a mirror of the right side, and so we'll get negative one, and we'll get negative two, and negative three, and negative four, and negative five, negative six, negative seven, and we'll keep going. So this idea of an integer is actually all numbers, all these whole numbers, negative, positive, and zero. I'll say that again. Integers is all of these numbers. It's all our natural numbers, zero, and negative versions of all the natural numbers. And that's what an integer is. A lot of times people hear integer, they think, oh, it's just the negatives. That's not true. It's the negatives, their positive versions, and zero. That's what an integer actually is. It is a whole number, but it has a negative or positive version, or it's just zero, which doesn't have anything. Because can you owe someone nothing? Yeah, it's still nothing. Doesn't make sense to call it a negative nothing. You can if you want to, but guess what? It's still nothing. Uh, so that's what an integer is, and that's what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with these negative numbers because they had to have these concepts and they had to make sense in the real world when it came to negative numbers. Now, many times you also hear negative numbers called signed numbers, or integers actually as a whole called signed numbers. And they're called signed numbers because uh, in front of them is a sign to tell you if you have a negative or a positive. So if you see a plus sign in front of something, it's denoted to be positive. If you have a negative sign in front of something, it's denoted to be negative. People use this in directions as well. For instance, if you were to go east, east would be to the right and west would be to the left. And so sometimes for someone's point of view, going to the west would be to the negative direction. Kind of what we were looking up here before. All our positive numbers go to the right, they go east. Our negative numbers go to the left, they go west. So someone may say that this is east and that this is west, right? Or north and south. North could be positive, south could be negative. It's up to you. You see this with a temperature or with the thermometer. You see just how the temperatures go as it goes up, it's positive, and as it goes down, it's negative. So there are lots of ways to use signed numbers. Many of you will most likely have seen this in your checkbooks or when you're looking at your credit or looking at a loan. How much you owe is in the negative, and how much you put in is in a positive usually. Uh, so, with all of that said, let's get started looking at integers, the operations we can do with them, their significance, and their fun.